So good morning, everyone. It's so great that you've decided to be here with us again. And I just know that we're all here to be open and to learn and to grow. And that somewhere in the middle of this service, whether it's the music, the message, the treatment, whatever it is in your heart that you're looking to have fulfilled today, I know that that's going to happen for you. And so to begin this service today, as always, we want to start with a treatment. And today, Harvey is going to be giving our treatment. So Harvey, if you'll unmute yourself and you can start.
Okay, thank you. So welcome. Hello all. If you would close your eyes. As you all know, I'm spending a lot of time in Emotions Anonymous 12 steps, so you may detect some things if you've ever been in 12 steps from this. Take a deep breath. And I know that right here and right now, as we feel the feelings and emotions of our life in relation to our circumstances, as well as the circumstances in our world, the disease, the deaths, the pollution, the fire and smoke, which thank God has left. We see personal health issues, world health issues, coronavirus, and an impending and important election. All of this brings up many feelings, often negative ones, and fears and resentments and doubts. And we then come to believe, or have already come to believe, and strengthen that belief in a power greater than ourselves. God, the universe, source, energy, or anything you choose to call it. We know it has the power to restore us to a greater sense of wholeness, oneness, and of our own divinity. We receive a feeling of alignment between our heart and our mind, and therefore release the negative imaginings of our often egocentric mind. And our hearts and minds are in alignment with each other. We have made or will make the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of the God of our understanding, our higher power, for wisdom, love, peace, and guidance. And as we allow ourselves to fearlessly look at and inventory our resentments, our fears and doubts, as well as see our faults, as well as our strengths, and we have shared all this with our higher power and at least one person of support, we know that we are ready for the changes to come. We ask and allow our higher power to help us remove these shortcomings. We are ready to make amends to those we have harmed, including ourselves, and begin to do so. So as we continue to review our inventory and continue to be aware of and admit our strengths and weaknesses, we allow ourselves to continue to treat, pray, meditate, transmit to our higher power, and receive from it. We continue to spread our love, truth, honesty, greater communication skills, and results of our spiritual awakening to all those we come in contact with, friends, families, community, and the whole world. So we ask God to grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And we let this all be so. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Harvey. Did you read my notes? It's very close to what I want to talk about today. So thank you. So now we're going to have an opening song. So Madge, you can unmute yourself and sing us in here.
Thank you. we'll do that. We're going to, I'm going to sing Welcome to the Circle. Whoops. But I've got to tune my guitar properly. Okay. I don't have much of a voice, so I'm going to do it a little lower than usual. Can you hear me okay? Welcome to the circle. How far have you come? Do you need some company, a candle and a song? Are you feeling weary, tired of being strong? Welcome to the circle. It's a place where you belong. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Do you have a burden that feels too much to bear? Do you have a bitterness you don't know how to share? Do you get too angry to breathe or laugh or pray? Well, there's no one in this circle who has never felt this way. No one in this circle who has never felt this way. Ooh, ooh, ooh. So welcome to the circle, whatever brought you here. The valleys and the mountaintops, the muddy and the clear. And know your work is worthy, and know your heart is true, and know that all you give away will come circling back to you. You gotta know that all you give away will come circling back to you. Ooh. Betsy Rose song. Thank you.
Thank you, Madge. That was lovely.
It's a virtual circle.
Yeah. It's always a circle, so that's good. Thank you so much. Okay, well, so I want to just begin by giving credit where credit is due. I was inspired this week. I was encouraged by a friend to check out Joel Osteen and some of his talks. And many of you may know who Joel Osteen is. He's a Christian minister, has a mega church in Houston, Texas, very energetic. And so I watched one of his services that is just been in the last, I don't know, a few weeks sometimes. And so he's standing in a sanctuary that I think seats about 10,000 people. It's, you know, it's one of those stadium-sized churches. And so you'll hear some Bible quotes and stuff, and that was because I was still incredibly inspired by his enthusiasm and his upliftment. But the other person I want to also acknowledge is Shannon Williams. And Shannon, I know, as a teen advisor, she's newly licensed practitioner, and she's in the they call it Center for Spiritual Awareness, but that is a CSL center in West Sacramento. So I just want to shout out their names because they inspired me this week. The topic today is trusting when you don't understand. And in Harvey's treatment, he said a couple of things. I was trying to jot them down, but my eyes were closed. That one of the things that we want is a greater source of wholeness. And he also said we need to, he didn't say it this way, but it was turn over to our higher power, to the God essence. And that's exactly what today's talk is all about. But I want to start with the fact that we're not always going to understand everything that is happening in our lives. But just because it doesn't make sense, that doesn't mean that God isn't at work and moving and creating wonderful things for us, even when we don't understand and we don't see it. So you may not see it yet becomes important, but what we need to remember is that the universe has equipped us, empowered us, called us. In the book of Exodus, so Old Testament, there is a line that I have raised you up for this very purpose. So whatever is happening in your life, to start to recognize that you've been raised up, that this time is here for us, and for us to be the persons that the world needs us to be, and who we need to be, just within our own hearts. So I'm going to start with one of Reverend Olstein's quotes, and he said, "You keep walking in faith, trusting when you don't understand, and you're going to walk into blessings, healing, freedom, abundance like you have never seen before." I like that. I love the promise of it. And I also know that we have all walked through things that we didn't understand, like betrayals, delays, loss of a friend, sometimes by death and sometimes just by circumstances. The threat of being laid off, divorce, pandemics. We don't understand most of these things. And often we can find ourselves in a position of asking God, why is this happening? And even more specifically, why is this happening to me? So today we need to remember that we walk in faith, that we are here to be the answer, not always the question. And within everything and anything, there is God. Therefore, there is always, always, always a potential for good, no matter what the circumstance looks like or the relationship looks like. And sometimes it may look awful. It may be awful. It may feel awful. And none of us like that, nor should we. But without those kind of circumstances, we can't become what we are meant to be. I know I've said many times, hindsight is always 20/20. When we look back and at times when in that moment we were saying, why God, why me, why now? Now we see it. If that hadn't happened, where would my road have gone? But now that has helped me, directed me, so that I can see more fully. But when the present moment, hindsight doesn't always work. And that is when we must stay in that place of faith. For while we're in it, whatever it is for you today, it may look like a dead end, but actually we are being set up for advancement. And this is so hard when we don't remember who we really are. And so it's time to stand in faith, faith like we haven't before. And Reverend Olstein used the example of the Last Supper / crucifixion, but if you kind of remember the Last Supper, they're up in this upper room and they're celebrating Passover. So here are these disciples, all of which have been with Jesus for most of his ministry. So for a few years, 3, And I kind of think about what they had seen in those previous 3 years. And they'd seen all kinds of miracles. They'd seen walking on water. They'd seen him feed thousands with what appeared to be nothing. They saw healing the sick, raising the dead. They witnessed it all. And now, in this upper room, Jesus tells them that his time has come, and that though he has promised that he would never leave them, he is about to be taken from them. That he will be betrayed, he will be persecuted. And they freaked out a little bit, particularly when he pointed fingers and said, "You will betray me, you will deny me," to some of them. So they were a little freaked out. But at the same time, as they continued that evening, the disciples drank too much and they fell asleep. So maybe they just didn't understand, or they plain just couldn't figure it out, and it was too much. So they turned away. So there's a couple of points in this story that I want to share with you. And the first point is this: stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to understand that which can't be, in this moment, understood. Instead, give thanks that the wisdom that is God is present and revealing in perfect time and perfect space our next step and how we can proceed. I also think it's really important to continue to thank the universal intelligence for making the crooked places straight. I just love that idea. Make the crooked places straight. In the book of Psalms, the psalmist, David, says, "The Lord will work out his plans for my life. For you, faithful love, O Lord, endures forever." So you don't have to work it out. You don't have to be frustrated or anxious, because the creator of the universe is breathing through you, giving of itself, which means that loving present it gives to us endlessly. And when we remember that, the right doors will open. The next step is revealed. As religious scientists, we all know that this divine mind, this divine intelligence, has a much bigger picture of what life can be than anything we can imagine. And I love this very creative, and don't know who to give credit to, but the idea that we need to stop telling God how big our problems are and start telling our problems how big our God is. And so let that be your faith. Put trust in that God that does see and does lead us. So the second point I want to bring up is how important it is to have this deep, abiding trust, but to not make it an excuse for complacency or for settling for something less than what the divine is calling you to do. So in other words, no spiritual bypass. And just to be clear, my concept of spiritual bypass is when for me, it's like it's a misinformed dealing with issues and baggage that we bring with us into our spiritual lives, but then avoid dealing with them, because we all know that we've brought this stuff in, but then it's like, oh, everything is fine, God will take care of it. It's not that kind of complacency, because there is a tendency to avoid challenge or to attempt to prematurely transcend our basic needs, our basic feelings, while we are still struggling with them. So it comes from the fact that most of us have very little tolerance for facing and working through our challenges. So that is kind of what spiritual bypass, when we just kind of sugarcoat it and walk away. It's still there, it still hurts, but we're doing our best to avoid it. So this is where my friend Shannon comes in. She'd written an article for one of CSL's websites. And in that, she is talking about when we don't trust in the law, here's what can happen. And so I'm just going to read you a couple of sections from her article. And so Shannon says, when we don't trust, we begin to see that our factual life does not match up with our spiritual standard. And so we settle into some beliefs that we can't possibly be perfect and whole. We tell ourselves that we are not enough, we don't deserve a full life because, fill in the blank. And sometimes we build really creative stories around why the good life, abundance, health, loving relationships aren't easy, or that they don't matter to us. We get lost in the world, unable to separate who we are from what we do. And she goes on to talk about, as Science of Mind students and spiritual beings, we know that that kind of thinking is contrary to the nature of spirit, or how the law of cause and effect works. We temporarily forget that our thoughts are creative, that they are the seeds to manifesting effects. As we vision our idea of a beautiful life and support it with affirmations, treatments, meditations, we begin to choose to see the beauty, truth, and the possibility that spirit is present in our life all the time. So back to the Last Supper crucifixion story. I'm pretty sure, just, in my looking at this, that the disciples went through some doubt, some confusion, some fear, and they might have even started to wonder, was anything he told us true? Anyone have any questions like that today? Is my faith really enough? Is this true, that my life is unfolding perfectly? And I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but here's a thought. Stop trying to pray away that which is moving you forward. I know this is really huge, but we really need to recognize that there is this place of trust within us. And when we begin to trust that it's all God, then nothing can exist in our lives that is not God. And anything that appears to be other than God cannot exist. And the only reason it does is because we, in our godlike capacity of creation, are holding a thought that in the universe would not stand by itself. So what do? So another point, it's time to listen deeply and to follow that inner instruction. To follow, you must trust. And what we're trusting here is a universal presence. So be grateful that the door opens, and that be equally grateful that some doors remain closed. This or something better becomes a great mantra for us. And we need to remember again, God has equipped and empowered us, and we have been raised for such a time as this. Now, it could be the things we don't understand are the critical pieces that we need right now or soon in order to become the awakened, magnificent ones that we have dreamed of becoming. And as much as it seems the challenge, the problem is random, just a bad break, out of my control, etc., it's equally as possible that this is the exact thing that we need to move us forward. So I have an example of this that I'm pretty sure I've shared, but here goes. When I was a child and young adult, my family got together, clustered together a lot. So I'm not just talking about the 4 of us that lived in my house. I'm talking about there's 12 of us, which grandparents and my mom's brother and his wife and their 4 kids. So 12 of us. And sometimes that was 15 and sometimes it was 20, just depending on what other family that wasn't there all the time got invited in. But one of the things, and especially on special occasions, but sometimes just for Sunday, our family put together puzzles. And these were, the 500,000 piece puzzles. And so I remember this one time specifically, and we just sort of wandered back and forth around this table trying to put this puzzle together. And there was this one piece that was really an odd shape. And it really caught your notice and people were looking at it, but nobody could figure out where it went. And I remember that there were at least a couple of the adults were talking about the fact that they were sure that the manufacturer had made a mistake and that this puzzle piece, in fact, would not fit in this puzzle. But, somebody'd look at it for a while, make some disparaging remarks and put it down, and then we would go back to work on the rest of the puzzle. And so, what happened was as more of the image was revealed, suddenly there was a place for that oddly shaped puzzle piece. And everyone was really excited. It was like it was a miracle. And I remember my grandmother said, well, wasn't that space always there? And I remember that kind of affected me at the time, but now even more. What didn't make sense, it all of a sudden made sense because the place that fit was revealed. So right now, that's kind of like our lives, and the pieces are coming together. And can we just stop focusing just on the odd, the unfathomable, how do we fit this into our lives, and just allow the picture to also reveal itself. So in closing, I just want to share that right now, many of us have pieces that don't seem to make sense. And it may be that the time to let the other pieces come together, and then we'll see why this happened. That's what's going on, or at least that's what I believe is going on. Another scriptural thought is all things work together for good. All things work together for good, even when it's difficult to understand or even feeling impossible. All things work for the good. The universe is not limited by what anyone, even experts, say. The universal presence tells us to walk by faith and not by sight. Trust in the divine intelligence that moves you forward only. Step forward, ready to receive your blessing. So now is the time for our offering. So as we move from one state of consciousness into another. We're not going to do we're going to do a treatment. And so we're going to start with a minute of silence. And if you have a request for a treatment, you can put it in the chat and hopefully I'll get it. And then that'll be part of our treatment, or the treatment that I give it after our minute. So take a deep breath and just relax into a position in which you feel receptive, open, ready. So in this moment, I know for myself and for everyone here that there is only God. It is peace, it is love, it is wisdom, it is inspiration, and it is within each of us in every moment. I know that in participating in this treatment, each of us recognizes the absolute one that is this presence. And it is unfolding as peace. It is immersed in love. And it is the guide that is the wisdom of God. And we are lifted in this inspiration. We know that there is nothing that anyone has to handle alone, because God moves with us, through us, around us. We open our hearts and our minds and remember that the awareness of the infinite and the eternal flow of spirit is what is making the choices. And so therefore we make perfect choices, and right action takes place in exactly the right moment. Every decision is made first in divine mind and is always for the highest and best for all concerned. So we live in this peaceful, joyous anticipation of the perfect outcome for every situation. And we see the divine reflected everywhere, in the morning mirror and in every person we encounter. And we greet it with love, compassion, genuine affection. Peace leads us forward, love lights our way, and truth is constantly experienced and expressed through each of us. And in this awareness, I now know for Gail that right where she is, there is a spiritual being who is filled to the very brim with the energy of the love of God. And she can relax into her good, the good of her life, the good of all her relationships, the good that is hers by right of consciousness. She relaxes in that truth and lets it be. And so I truly see that all is well in the world and that we are filled with gratitude for the blessings and for the upcoming realization of truth in every aspect of our lives. And so as I joyously release this word into the mind of God, knowing that it is divinely inspired and that its manifestation is already accomplished, I accept every word that has been spoken for every being present on this call and for those who are not, as I know for all beings everywhere, that all beings are happy, all beings are peaceful, all beings are free, for all beings are God. And I let this be so, and so it is. So now just take another deep breath with me as we move from this practice of centering into our practice of circulation. So yes, now it is time for our offering. And I want to again just thank all of you for your ongoing awareness and being willing to support the center through all of its ups and downs, changes, and how we are. So I'm going to put up the offering affirmation. And so please say with me now, divine love through me blesses and multiplies this gift. With all my heart and with all my mind, I know that I am saying yes to something I value. With all others present here, we dedicate these gifts to the values and visions we share. Okay, so I just have a couple of things that I want to share with you. And first, if you all read your newsletter, I think I put this in the newsletter, but the Reverend Tony Bonacorso passed away last week, and I just heard about that. And so I would just like for us to hold him in our hearts and our minds, because I know that most of you did not know Tony. I actually knew him. But Tony is the founder of the Center for Spiritual Living in Ukiah. And he was here for about a year. And when he left, Suzanne came. And Suzanne was here for 12, 13 years. And then I came. So the center's been here a long time. But it was vision of a really inspired group of people here in Ukiah, a study group here in Ukiah. But it was also the willingness of Tony, who I don't think ever lived in Ukiah, but was willing to do the commute and be a part of the center and get it off the ground. So we send him on his way with great blessings and great gratitude for what he started for all of us. I also want to remind you that Bonnie is still looking for a couple of people to be willing to serve on the new board of directors, which will be, we'll be having an election in January at our annual meeting, our virtual annual meeting. And so that's it as far as announcements for today. And so, Madge, you want to sing us out?
Yes. Oh, let me put it on gallery view so I can see all of you, or those of you who have video on. This is another affirmation put to music, and it goes so perfectly with what Candice just talked about. And this was my own affirmation put to music with a workshop where what do you need to hear? And then sing it to yourself. And I think I'll do it a bunch of times because it's one of those where you just sink into it and all of you will be able to sing along. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. I'm going to take it up just a little bit. So just do your best and then trust. It is enough. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. Last time. Just do your best and then trust. Just do your best and then trust. It is enough. It is enough. The power of affirmations.
All right. Thank you so much, Madge. That was beautiful. And so if you have some time and you want to hang out for a little bit, that would be great. We'd love to see you. And if not, it was wonderful. Thank you for being here today. I love you. Namaste.